It's the 24th day of the third month of the year 2019. Welcome to Editors Forum. It's been a productive week, but ended on a bloody Friday. 57 people dead, 53 injured in a fatal crash between two buses on the Kintampo-Techiman Road.
Traveling from Accra to Bolika, whilst the one bench was from Garutimpani to Kumasi. In fact, nobody knew what happened, but eyewitnesses in the other cars stated that when they were coming, they didn't know what happened. They only saw that the car was set ablaze.
Another 10 in a head-on collision at Ekumfiabo on the Mankasim Winneba Road, whilst those in critical condition receive emergency medical treatment. President Akufo-Addo has expressed his condolence to the families of the deceased.
My sympathies and condolences go to all the families and loved ones of the deceased.
There are indications Parliament's Roads and Transport Committee will summon the sector ministers to respond to questions.
We are working behind the scenes to see how we can get the relevant ministers to appear before the committee and brief us, and then we'll put together that information for the public to know what they've done so far.
The Road Safety Commission, however, wants drivers properly sanctioned to help arrest the situation.
We need to take interest in the quality and competence level of their drivers. And there should be opportunity for an operator's license to be suspended, for instance, given the number of incidents that this operator may have recorded over time.
Also this week, renewed clashes between Konkomes and Chokosis claim 3 lives and displaced 1,860 people. The conflict is said to have affected people in the Saboba and Yonyo Nasua districts as well.
The situation in Chirponi is regrettable. Clearly, we are dealing with a situation where we need the leadership of the two groups.
Acting Minister for the newly created Northeast Region, Salifu Said, says REDSEC is adopting new strategies to help bring lasting peace to the area.
Security officers, despite the difficulties on the grounds in both Cherpone and Saboba districts, they have been able to marshal their men and women and confronted the issue head-on.
Plus, the NPP operationalized President Akufo-Addo's directive by writing to invite the opposition NDC to a meeting on disbanding party militias, tasking the NDC to choose a venue. But the NDC is worried this may narrow the conversation.
NDC is requesting for a multi-stakeholder meeting. And what the NPP have written and requested for this week is not a multi-stakeholder meeting. If the NPP were committed and they really want to show to the people of this country they see the urgency in eliminating and uprooting this menace of vigilantism, they would have set the place for the meeting. They would have set a time for the meeting.
Well, the opposition NDC has also asked the National Peace Council to select a venue for the much-awaited dialogue and insists the council must serve as mediator. You recall the president gave that directive a month ago and followed it up with an order for the Attorney General to put together and submit to Parliament the specific legislation to deal with party militias. The police administration has, however, started a consultative meeting with the political parties to permanently disband party militias.
This is consolidating ideas towards supporting the political process to rid the nation of the most talked about issue in recent times, vigilantism.
Also this week,
I will pray that we take this obligation seriously. If we take our nation seriously, we will take this obligation seriously.
Speaker of Parliament Professor Michael Quay reiterating his call for MPs to attach seriousness to their parliamentary duties after he met a virtually empty chamber when proceedings began on Thursday. 15 MPs out of the 275 members of Parliament were present.
It shows they are not serving our best interests. Yeah, they are not there because of us. Because if they are serving the people, then they should be there. Because they are our representatives. They don't represent themselves. They are our representatives. So if they are not there, then it's quite unfortunate that we put them there.
Stay with us. We have all the angles on Editors Forum. We are live on digital address GA092539 on Facebook.com/JoyNews on TV, on Twitter at JoyNews on TV, on YouTube and across the world on myjoyonline.com. You can also join the conversation via 0266 047417 on WhatsApp. We'll be back shortly. In the studio with me to do the discussion, Stephen Enti is journalist with TV3 and Kofi Encho is assistant editor at Dome Online. Gentlemen, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Right, so it's been, some have tagged it Black Friday. Over 80 people lost their lives in a single day. And you know, the statistics are very scary. If you look at the trend, and then you also can tell that the numbers keep increasing by the year. You can just look at 2017 alone, and then you have 2,076 people who were killed through road crashes. And then you come to 2018, 2,341, and that's a 12.76% increase from the 2017 figure. And that has been the trend over the years. Sad times for our country, right, Stephen?
Very, very indeed. I mean, if we lose one person, it's a big deal, and 80 people
in one day.
That's crazy. And if we don't see this as an emergency, a national emergency, then I'm not sure what else we will see it as, because if we're losing the key human capital in our society this way in very avoidable circumstances, then I think we have a problem on our hand, and it's time we go back to the drawing board to fix this problem.
Kofi, I'm sure you share the same sentiment.
Exactly. Aisha, let me say good evening to you and our viewers. It's quite scary. I mean, I also did the kind of search that you did. And the statistics actually scared me. The figures quite scared me. In one day, the country lost almost 90 people. And that is something that we should be worried about. Okay, so this is a time to turn the tide. This is a time to take action. This is not a time to do the usual, where we talk. We'll discuss this Monday. There will be a spillover by Tuesday. Hopefully by Wednesday, it dies out.
Yeah.
We need to have measures in place. This is a time to act. And so I'm hoping that whoever is responsible, and in this case, all of us are responsible for whatever happened on
It's
Friday.
A collective responsibility.
It's a collective responsibility. Government inclusive, individuals inclusive, all of us, our attitudes. Aisha, what causes some of these things? We all know, don't we?
Yeah.
We all know. We have the needed policies in place to ensure that we avoid some of these things. But nobody is interested in actually implementing those policies. I'm sure we'll come to the policies.
Yeah.
What is it that is wrong with us? We know that, for instance, we are supposed to have CCTV cameras. And the big boys know. They know this. They travel outside. When they go there, they see that they have CCTV cameras.
In fact, elsewhere, you just commit a crime and nobody minds you. I mean, by the time you get home, your fine is there waiting for you. So nobody wants to be caught in that scam. So everybody is very careful and disciplined.
So why can't
But you talked about causes and what accounts for all of this. I'm sure by now we all know the causes of these things, and that is why there are people who believe that we've gone beyond looking out for the causes, and that this where we are now is how to fix the problems. For instance, if you talk about excessive speeding on our roads, research has shown that 60% of the car crashes is caused by excessive speeding. The next question you want to ask is, what has been done to ensure that we reduce the speed on our roads?
We've had policy guidelines where it's been stated very clearly what you just said, that we have speed limiters. We've had that in our policies. Actually, in 1 year, we even had a UN guideline to support African countries. We've had that. The authorities are aware, and you made it clear that we should be able to control speed. So somebody is supposed to do that. Somebody is supposed to ensure that those speed limiters are installed in the commercial vehicles that we have. That has not happened. Okay, so the Kintampo incident, for instance, it happened at dawn. That time, who was there? There was no police officer there, nobody there to guide them, so to speak, to implement the law. At that time, the driver was doing whatever he wanted to do. There was nobody. So we've had the books, but nobody is interested in implementing.
So the challenge I have is that we seek to be thinking that regulation, punishment, criminalizing, that will be the solution. Right now we're talking about putting in place speed cameras, we're talking about law enforcement officers, police officers getting onto the road and checking speeds, but we're forgetting that these in themselves won't solve the problem, because if you have the cameras, if you have the law enforcement agencies, and the people's attitudes are not changing to reflect what you want, then we won't get anywhere.
That's why from the start we made the point that it's a collective responsibility. It cannot be laid squarely at the doorstep of the law enforcement agencies. But all of us have a part to play. But I think to make this conversation very relevant, let's listen to an eyewitness, because there is a particular story about the Kintampo Road where over 70 people lost their lives on Friday.
Honestly, the roads within the northern part is not good. That stretch of road is an accident-prone zone. And I don't know what our leaderships are doing about that particular road. You see that it's a busy road. They are supposed to expand the road so that more vehicles can easily move as they come and flow. But the road is too tiny, especially around the Kintampo where the cave is. It's a very dangerous area, and it's not good.
So, Steve, you have this gentleman, and
dangerous curve, narrow road, and all of that.
To this, what the gentleman is saying, that road is an accident-prone zone, and every now and then we're having accidents.
Last year there was a
probably because of how the road itself is. I think it is curvy, the curvy nature of that road, and again, maybe the fundamental thing we should be talking about is the nature of our roads.
The nature of our
generally, how are our roads like? We have very bad roads in this country.
We do.
And as we admit that both of us, or all of us, it's a collective responsibility for us to ensure that
then
we keep road carnages. What is it, and who is in charge of ensuring that our roads are safe?
I think that ideally governments should be responsible to make sure that the road infrastructure is intact. I mean, you ply some roads and there are no street lights, and like he was talking about the driving in the middle of dawn. If there are no lights on that stretch of road, no matter what you do, there could be some form of distractions, and these could lead to accidents. So I think that whilst we're discussing implementation, enforcing the laws, and while we're thinking about putting in place safety cameras, security cameras, while we're talking about getting the police on the ground to check speeding vehicles and all of that, we also need to have the government invest into road infrastructure. I mean, take for example the N1 highway. Since the N1 was put in place, the number of accidents on the N1 increased, and people were complaining that there are not sufficient bridges, sufficient speed ramps and things like that on a highway, and nothing has been done still until recently. There were some road markings put there, and pedestrians were made to keep in certain lanes, and it reduced the hit and runs a little bit.
So
we are still recording. So I think that it's fair to get government to act on this by fixing the road infrastructure. I've heard lots of arguments, including the fact that the National Road Safety Commission should be upgraded to an authority and all of that. They wanted
even as a commission, they lack the resources to operate. That's what we always tell you, that they don't have enough authority. Steve, we don't give much priority to our roads, do we?
Yes, Aisha, you see, the problem goes beyond even the nature of the roads that we have. One official of the commission once told me that, Kofi, good roads are bad. Good roads are bad in what sense? In the sense that when the road is good, you have people overspeeding. Okay, so quite frankly, I think that's
why we have speed ramps.
So you see, it goes beyond having good roads. It is bigger than good roads. We have reached a stage where
good roads will meet us halfway.
Very good roads actually lead to accidents if you are not careful.
But if we go by that argument, then we would have no roads because we need the roads to make economic activity flow.
Good roads
are good. They cannot be bad.
I am not disputing the fact that good roads, we need good roads. The point I'm making is that it goes beyond good roads. Okay, so then you have a very good road. The Kintampo incident, the road is good.
Okay.
Are you aware? The road is good. But they have difficulties. They don't have sign instructions. They don't have, at points, they don't even have road ramps and all that. Okay. But the road is good.
But what can you say of the Kumfi Abo accident? That also claimed almost 30 lives. Are the roads good?
An issue at a time. And see, it's about the attitude of the person.
Yes, we've talked about attitude.
Who is behind the steering wheel? If you have a good road and you have a bad driver who has a bad attitude, you will have the situation that we are encountering in this country. If you have a bad driver if you have a good driver who is using a bad road, all of you get to your destination. So sometimes, yes, I agree that we need very good roads, but the whole problem we have doesn't rest with good roads.
Okay.
It rests with so many other things.
Definitely.
For instance,
we've admitted that.
As we speak, there are new trends, there are new things happening that we should look at. Okay, so as we speak, there are people who travel in the night. That's quite a development.
Yeah.
So there are drivers who are supposed to transport you from Accra, for instance, to say Kumasi.
Yep.
In the night.
Yep.
That is a development. How are we handling that? Okay. The driver is tired, and we are hearing all kinds of things. They buy energy drinks, they sniff fuel just to get the energy to drive. So the road is good.
Yep.
But the person is driving in the night, and so there's an issue.
Yeah.
Why can't we have two drivers, for instance, for the VVIPs, for long distance drivers, so that when they are going and they get to, for instance, Accra to Kumasi, they get to Bunsu or Nkoko, one rests,
and then the other takes over.
Because in this case, there are allegations that the driver was actually misbehaving, was actually sleeping, and so when it's general, it's bigger than just providing good roads, traffic lights, good roads, the signage and all that. It's bigger than that. I think that we need a holistic approach. Otherwise, we'll get the same results in the next 1 month if you're not careful.
Definitely, I want to agree with you that yes, it's not just good roads. Our attitudes is part of it, and we've all admitted that it's a collective responsibility. But all these things come together to address the issue. Now, the president has also expressed his condolence to the family of the deceased. Let's listen to him.
And I'm sure you have all heard of the horrific accident that took place in the early hours of this morning at Amoma Nkwanta in the Kintampo South District of the Bono region, claiming over 70 lives. My sympathies and condolences go to all the families and loved ones of the deceased. May the Almighty grant their souls peaceful rest. Last year, I set up an interministerial committee composed of the Minister for the Interior, the Minister for Roads and Highways, and the Minister for Transport to examine and propose measures to deal with the increased rate of road accidents in the country. The committee has concluded its work and has made recommendations for the consideration of the Police Council. As the police is the institution charged with the regulation of traffic on our roads, it is my hope that the recommendations will be speedily acted upon and outlawed as soon as possible. As we can all see, the issue is urgent.
So that's President Akufo-Addo expressing his condolence to the family of the deceased, and also explaining how urgent it is for us to tackle this road carnages in our country. And as we always lay the blame at the doorstep of government, and we've talked about how our roads are bad and how government needs to fix it, then it comes to the human factor. How responsible are we as the individuals? And Kofi made it clear, the driver who sits by the steering, how does he behave? How does he conduct himself? If only we were all disciplined on our roads, maybe we would not be having this conversation, Steve.
That's true. I mean, if you look at the trend of accidents, I was telling you off air that majority of these accidents are from commercial vehicles. These are mass transportation where a lot of people use, to the extent that 80 people could die in just a single day. It suggests that majority of the drivers on our roads mostly are commercial drivers. So key question is, I'm not suggesting that private vehicles don't engage in accidents,
but they are much more careful.
They're minimal. So what kind of driving regime is available for commercial drivers? What kind of training do they have when they sit behind the wheel? You know, if you drive on the streets of Accra, you know how truck drivers drive. They learn to drive through an apprenticeship system, and then they graduate to become drivers, and suddenly they have licenses. Nobody knows what kinds of training they went through. I mean, I will go through driving school, get through all the lessons, do tests, pass my test. I'll be on it for like 6 months before I get my driver's license through the legitimate means. But a truck driver starts by being a mate, then in the night when his master is sleeping, he will hit the road without a license. And these things happen. We're pretending we don't know about them, but they happen. And we have spare drivers on Sundays. Because the system is not robust enough to make you afraid to even sit behind.
And that is where the law enforcement agencies come in.
License.
Exactly. That's when the law enforcement agencies come in. I mean, you have people who drive with their tail lights not working, one brake light not working, sometimes none at all. That is working, and they hit the road and they know that they can just give out one red note or yellow note to a policeman and off they go. And these things are happening even broad daylight. Sometimes the policemen themselves will say, Charlie Roger, if you can't give me, then park and then I'll waste your time. So they don't really check these commercial vehicles. And I'll bring in the and I'll find out what the DVLA does, because if you're supposed to have roadworthy each time you go to renew your roadworthy, the DVLA is supposed to check your car, put it on their machines, ensure that it is roadworthy. And if people, but I think first I should address the police people. People do this with impunity because they know that with just one city or two cities, you can just go your way. Sometimes they don't even have license, and police will stop them with license when sometimes their license are even expired. They need to renew. All they do is to put the money in, close it, and give it out, and nobody cares. And this is why we're talking about law enforcement agencies. Some time ago, we heard about the spot fine. We're happy about it. I don't know what has happened to the spot fine. And then you talked about CCTV cameras. Do we have it at all? If we have it, who ensures that people who defy road regulations are punished?
Okay, Aisha, we don't have the CCTV cameras across.
I've seen a couple of cameras around.
Yes,
across. I drive through. I drive past the Kaswa toll booth, and there are some things flashing in my eyes anytime I drive.
That's why
I assume they might be speed cameras or
it's true. It's true. That's why I said
I have no clue.
And that's why I said across.
We need a comprehensive system.
Exactly. And see, you made a very valid point. The issue is this, Aisha. To what extent? There are two issues. One, after there's an accident, what is the response? You have a situation where there's an accident and you have officials who come there. The first 2-3 officials who come there will be people from the Ghana National Fire Service, police, sometimes NADMO. And the idea is to save the victims. You don't have a situation where you have an ambulance being at the scene of an accident immediately. That's where, like I keep saying, if there's an accident and somebody is able to put through a call, the next few minutes, the first person who will be there will be an ambulance driver with the whole team. Sometimes you watch the scene and you are worried. The Kintampo incident, for instance, there were bodies. You saw bodies there and people were just packing them. to one side. The assumption is that they are dead. Sometimes in medicine, sometimes even an hour, sometimes even a minute is important. So you assume that they are dead.
Okay.
If you have, for instance, a situation where the ambulance will get there first, even before police, they could save people.
But we're even talking prior to the accident. What the police people do on our roads,
we're talking
even
about
before we get even before we get to the
accident.
accident.
So
what are the proactive measures? We shouldn't be there in the first place. We should not be there in the first place. The police by the roadside, and we've seen police visibility. I mean, some time ago, the IGP said they were going to increase visibility. That's supposed to put some fear in people who defy road regulations. But is the visibility enough? When people are misbehaving on the roads, what do the police do? Are they supposed to be there visible to collect red and yellow papers? What are they supposed to do? When people are driving and their lights are not working, their brake lights are not working, and even the car itself is a rickety vehicle which is not supposed to be on the road, and they are on the road, what is the police supposed to do?
Aisha, you are talking about the pre-departure issues. And I agree with you perfectly that before you depart, what are the regulations that guide the way we drive in this country? I agree with you. And so you are on your way. And so what are the measures to ensure that you don't get into trouble? So then the police comes in. I think that I'm not comfortable trying to narrow the issues down to individuals and blame game and the police are supposed to be there
but you have to agree that you need to admit that it takes I mean, these little bits put together to resolve the issue. As human as you are, and as people, I've heard some research put it, that people behave more than animals when there are no laws to guide them. And that is why we have some of these rules. People will pass through red light if they do not see that the police is there. Go to the roadside one day, I mean a highway on a typical day, and then the lights go off, and see how drivers behave. You will marvel. Let's say that there is a police there and people will behave themselves. That is why we need the police in this conversation.
Is that so? Is that so? Do people actually fear the police? And in this case, drivers? You see, we are looking at a very serious issue. At dawn, which police officer is there?
What is the role of the police officer? The police officer is supposed to be on the road. The MTTD is supposed to dispatch people to be on vantage points. At dawn, if a policeman is not supposed to be there, am I the one supposed to be there? So am I the one paid to do that job?
We have an environment where we don't have the luxury of that.
We should have the. Why shouldn't we?
So how do we fix it? You need to understand the context of your environment.
Can you help me out understand this? Why shouldn't a policeman be there? Look, there are times you pass through roads and you find so many policemen there. You know what they do? They stop you. You open your window. Oh, how are you? Okay, you can go.
My boys know how.
If I have a human being in my booth, I've killed a human being in my booth, I just walk free and go.
Aisha, if we focus.
But there are other places where you need even a single policeman and you don't find even a single policeman there. And that's why we are asking the question, whose duty is it?
Aisha, if we engage in blame game, we will not get anywhere, because when we talk about accidents, it goes beyond the police service. It goes beyond the National Road Safety Commission. That is why I am trying very hard to establish the fact that it is not about blaming the police service, because you have barriers. You can have a driver who will get to a barrier, the police will check, everything is intact. But between this barrier and the next barrier, the driver can misbehave and kill 50 people. Okay, so I'm looking at a holistic approach where we as a nation would discuss the issues and get solution. If, for instance, like I was saying, let me even move forward. If you have investigators, accident investigators, I'm not talking about, you see, we are talking about pre, that's fine. Yeah. But I'm saying that the point I'm making will veer into the pre. Because then if you have accident investigators who, after whatever has happened, they will be able to establish, usually we depend on witnesses, and then we go with it. If we are able to get real reasons why accidents happen, then we will prevent it.
Probably we can talk about the interministerial commission that was put together to look into the causes of road accidents in the country. And you heard the president made the point that they should fast track the implementation. I think that it will be fantastic if we all get details of that report made public for everybody to know what really the causes are and what the recommendations are. But who is, I mean, the other thing is, whose duty is it to implement? And you and I, Steve, know the history of implementation in this country. The reason why people are a bit skeptical when it comes to some of these things, because we have fine laws. We always have a lot of nice recommendations, but the implementation has always been the problem, Steve.
I know, you spoke about key recommendations. I was looking at bits and pieces of the recommendations and what has been implemented so far. There is the recommendation to transform the National Road Safety Commission to a National Road Safety Authority. I mentioned that earlier, but my thinking is that how would this help? There's also a request for additional 6.5 million Ghana cedis to the National Road Safety Commission.
Apart from the $230 million they use annually.
When I spoke to the Road Safety Commission on Friday, they told me that the president paid this, the government made the payments to the National Road Safety Commission in 2 tranches. So that amount has been paid. And we're expecting to see the National Road Safety Commission embark on a comprehensive education of the citizenry, both drivers and pedestrians, road users. We shouldn't forget that. It's not only those who are driving inside the car that engage in accidents. And like he said, there were discussions of having installation of CCTV cameras all over the place, security cameras. But what will they do? Are they supposed to be speed cameras? Are they supposed to be just security camera to take a shot of you? If we go elsewhere, for example, the United Kingdom and the United States, when you're driving beyond the speed limits, your photograph is taken. The person behind the steering is snapped, and then your vehicle registration number is snapped. And what's done is that these vehicle registration numbers are linked to your address, your location addresses. So in a minute, you get fines coming to your address. If you don't pay, the implications are huge. Implications could be effect on your credit and all of that. So these are only a couple of the recommendations that have been made, but the implementation of these recommendations is what have not happened, and where we are because of these things. So the key question I keep asking, that if we implement these recommendations, will they indeed have a positive effect on reducing road carnage?
Well, that's what we're all hoping for, but the Road Safety Commission has admitted that indeed these accidents shouldn't be happening, and I think that they agree with the point you make, that drivers need training and they need to be monitored as to how they behave on the road, not just before they move their vehicles, but maybe there should be some gadgets installed in their cars that as they are on the road, people are monitoring from somewhere and knowing that they are abiding by the rules. Let's listen to the communications director, Etuahene, who spoke this week.
We need to take interest in the quality and competence level of their drivers. For instance, if you fly an aircraft, which to our mind is essentially the same as the bus, except for the fact that these travel in our airspace and not on the road. There is no pilot who gets to fly an aircraft without having to go to school every 6 months. Is it the same? Can we say the same of drivers who are in that space? Operators must be licensed on stringent guidelines, and there should be opportunity for an operator's license to be suspended, for instance, given the number of incidents that this operator may have recorded over time. There should be guidelines or conditions for their drivers. There should be guidelines for their vehicles and their fleets. For instance, someone must be interested to try to examine the fleets, whether they correspond beyond their roadworthiness to the law, or whether these vehicles submit to regular, what do you call them, maintenance program and that kind of thing. Yeah. Unfortunately, in this country as of today, there is not much that is being done in that space.
Okay, so that was Ituahene Kondra, who is the communications director of the Road Safety Commission, and he talks about training and how drivers can be monitored to conduct themselves well on the road. He's speaking your language.
We've had.
He's speaking your language.
We've had. See, my problem is this.
You don't think training solves anything?
It's about policy directions, and we've had that over the years. We've had that over the years. Under previous regimes, we had this situation. We had committees set up, and then they were tasked to implement policies to ensure that. And you rightly said, I mean, they've listed a few. In fact, in 2009, they listed others. They said they were going to give long-distance drivers logbooks and all that, and the reflectors, front and back and all that. What do we see? If you travel, sometimes you get to a point, somebody's car breaks down, the person parks the car, instead of giving you a warning sign ahead and before, they cut tree branches. And they put the tree branches
buckets,
there,
gallons,
and they leave the branches there,
ties,
and then they go somewhere to look for help. What if a goat passes and chews the branches? The branches are no longer there, and that is a common practice. Go outside, go to the hinterland. So I'm saying that this whole thing is so holistic that we need a national dialogue. It's not about just so go and implement this particular one, because you see, we are evolving.
That could be a starting point.
Exactly. I try to push the point that we have been there before, and we are getting trends, new trends, drivers behaving differently.
So we should avert our minds to that.
Previously, there was the suggestion like the policy implementation to ensure that we get out of this. So policy implementations, and people are saying that. Get out of this. How do you get out of this? Get a training school, academy for drivers, so that they will be there. They can go there for training and retraining. They said that in policies that we are talking about today.
We've heard that before. The drivers academy.
Is it? Do we have a drivers academy? We don't have. So it's a problem, and I think that this is a time to have a holistic discussion.
Yeah. So
not just look at. Overspeeding, because that is what happens. In the next 2 months, accidents will happen. The discussion will be around drunk driving, overspeeding, bad roads, and we won't get anywhere.
I agree that,
I think that we should look at new trends and then incorporate the new trends into what we already have. And then we get people to implement
exactly, but we cannot go away from the overspeeding and training, the training of drivers. And the law enforcement agencies. Well, Parliament, there are indications that Parliament will summon the sector ministers to come and brief the House on what exactly is being done or what our status is right now on dealing with road carnages. Let's listen to a member of the Road and Transport Committee, Mr. Abuja.
What we must be asking is what the presidential task force that the president put together after another accident in the past have done so far, the Ministry of Roads and Highways, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Interior, what they've done so far in line with the president's determination to reduce the carnage on our roads. The public would like to know, and specifically what has been done in relation to this spot, which is a known black spot. And then we can also inquire from the police what their initial findings are as to the cause of the particular accident. People have come up with their own versions of what might have happened. All of them are plausible. I mean, it could be that a driver is sleepy or tired and sleepy. It could be a mechanical failure on one of the buses, which are all things that can happen. But it's difficult to say for sure that we know what's happened. I'm sure the police will be able to help us, but it's not a very good day at all.
Is the committee ready to go into this?
Yes, yes.
And get answers?
Yes, in fact, I've been in touch with my chairman, and we are working behind the scenes to see how we can get the relevant ministers to appear before the committee and brief us, and then we'll put together that information for the public to know what they've done so far.
Particularly the Ministry of
Transport, Road and Highways and Interior to tell us what they've done so far.
So what's your expectation of the state, the Roads and Highways Ministry, the Ghana Highways Authority, in terms of what can be done at these accident-prone spots so you don't see a repeat?
Well, I think there are a couple of measures they can take. If there are quite a number of maybe potholes and the curves are too sharp, I'm sure they can do realignment and address the surfaces to ensure that. And then they can also put in some road furniture and signage to ensure that drivers approaching know the dangers ahead and take the appropriate action before they approach those areas as an interim measure whilst we address the long-term issues of the condition of our road, which requires a lot of resources from the state. And that one, I believe government need to, like I've always said, I don't think government is putting in enough money to improve the condition of our road.
So that's Kwame Agboja. He's a member of the Roads and Transport Committee in Parliament. Now, if this ever happens, Steve, what would be your expectation?
Expectations of implementation.
The sector ministers coming to respond.
I don't know.
What would you expect to hear from these ministers?
Look, I mean, we need concrete plan and action. And like he has been saying, we have a lot of policies, a lot of laws already. So we need to implement the recommendations that have been made. We need to put in place systems that will bring repair works to the roads, lighting the roads a bit. We need responsibilities and action from the government we've elected into office. But if you ask me, beyond that, I'm not expecting anything grand to happen if he ever appears before Parliament to answer questions. What we need and what I expect is that there will be a concrete plan of improving road safety, enhancing education, ensuring drivers are well and better trained, especially commercial drivers. And I think we'll be fine. Because you said earlier, you did mention earlier that if we leave human beings just to exist, everybody will act very bad. We need the laws to compel people to. I'll give you a fine example. I traveled to New York one day and I borrowed my friend's car. Now, when I brought the car, I saw on his flat there were 2 lines of parking on the roads on Tuesdays, and everyone on the left was facing that way, everyone on the right was facing this way, and Ghana boy, I just came pulling and locked myself into some small space. Apparently, where I had parked, I was facing the opposite direction, which really suggests that I was parked wrongly. I woke up to a road ticket of $80.
Definitely.
I was upset because I was on vacation.
And because of that, you will not do that again.
Because of that, next time when I'm coming to park, I watch and I park well.
You see, that's the point we've been trying to make.
We need some of these enforcements and to enable us act right. We need to be forced to act right, whether on the road, whether behind the steering, or even whether as pedestrians crossing the road.
Kofi, what would you expect from these ministers if they ever happen to come to Parliament?
That's a brilliant observation from an advanced environment. How do we get there? You see, that's all that we are talking about today. Okay, so the minister is like he said, it's likely to be summoned. I think that to the extent that we will get to hear some of the things that are happening, what has happened to the policy directions that are supposed to fix the problems that we are facing today, the minister should be able to speak to those issues. To those extents, I think that it's okay for the minister to go to Parliament and explain to us why we are in the situation that we are in. My only worry is that...
Do we need explanations of why we're in the situation?
Exactly, but that's the point. That's the way.
I mean, it does appear that...
For me, what I would be expecting...
is being... The argument on social media has been made political.
Yeah.
This goes beyond politics.
It goes beyond politics. And I wouldn't expect the sector minister to come and play politics with this issue. They should tell us, I mean, as it is, they should tell us, I mean, just point blank, the situation in which we are now and how we intend to move from here, because we all agree that where we are is even a bad...
Proud to even the statement that sought to give the indication that the minister will be invited. And there were reports, social media reports, there were all kinds of things on social media trying to politicize even the accident.
That is why we don't need politics
so we are hoping that we don't get into that when the minister goes by.
Right. Let me take a few of your WhatsApp comments, and I'll start with Ken from Goforija. He says, Aisha, I strongly feel that our passengers always sit unconcerned when drivers drive recklessly and never speak. I think I disagree, because when the drivers also keep screaming and shouting at the driver says, you are confusing me, so leave me to do what I have
but
to
if
do.
a driver is misbehaving, you should be able to tell the driver.
You should be able to tell, but sometimes when all the passengers are the drivers also get distracted. So I think that the right thing to do is the drivers to get the best training and behave appropriately behind the steering. And this one says, good evening, my name is Jacob, and I totally agree that it is a collective agreement, but I also believe that the passengers have a role in this. Can you imagine being a bus traveling and drivers overtaking each other and looking through the gate to tease each other, and passengers cannot talk? If the driver now makes a little mistake, he kills all the people on board. Okay, so he also agrees that drivers should not, passengers should not sit unconcerned. And this one, from Kumasi, says the best solution is verifiable punishment of the offenders, no exception. And that's from Yao from Kumasi. This one from Saki from Sekendi says, good evening, Aisha. The carnages we experience on our roads is mainly due to indiscipline on the part of drivers, both commercial and private. There's too much excessive speeding and unnecessary overtaking on the part of drivers, especially the private ones. And I think we've made the point of overspeeding, which is killing us. And this one says, drivers should be medically examined every 3 months. Any driver without a medical certificate should not be allowed to drive. You didn't add your name. And let me check this one. You also didn't add your name. It says, please madam, you have to understand the issues on that spot around Kintampo. You expect a policeman to follow every car or what? Okay, but that's not what we are saying. And everyone says, what I want to say is that the problems is from our bad roads, bad cars and bad police. If these things are put in place, I think we will reduce the accidents on our roads.
I like that. Bad roads, bad cars, and bad police.
Bokete Bentua in Cape Coast says, I think it's high time we expand our highways to dual carriages. I use the Accra Cape Coast Road often, and I think the police are doing a good job. For about every 400 to 600 meters drive, you will meet a police checkpoint, which in a way checks over speeding at night, 6 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. A lot of your messages are here, and let me take this one. He didn't add his name. Okay, he says, I agree with Uncle Kofi that accidents are mostly attitudinal. 2 suggestions: police must be made to patrol the roads frequently. Long distance drivers should consider leaving early in the morning rather than late at night. Multiple drivers is also helpful. Good show. Thank you very much for liking us. And we've also been talking about the Chirpone clashes. Almost 2,000 people have been displaced, 3 lives have been lost. And let's listen to the acting minister for the newly created Northeast region. He's been speaking to some measures that the security agencies are putting in place to curb the situation.
Met to review the unfortunate inter-ethnic conflict of the Chirpone district as well as that of Saboba district, where the Anufos popularly known as the Chakosis, as well as the Konkomba community, have this unfortunate violent confrontation, which has led to the destruction of lives and property. As a result of that, the security put in all their expertise together. The military, the police, the BNI, and all other security sister agencies, particularly the police and the military as well as the BNI, they've done a yeoman's job in the affected communities. Looking into it, the security made some arrests, 8 people, and yesterday 6 were sent to court and they are into the prison custody. They have been remanded, and the others, they are working on them. They will also be thrown behind the prison so that further investigations will take place. But the security officers, despite the difficulties on the grounds in both Cherpune and Saboba districts, they have been able to marshal their men and women and confronted the issue head on. And that is why we have that uneasy calm in that part of our region.
Salifu Said is the acting regional minister of the newly created Northeast region where Tripoli is found. Now, the worrying part of the Tripoli clashes is the fact that this is not the first time we're seeing this. I mean, recently in January, the whole thing started, and then on the face of it, we're told that it's over a parcel of land. Just a piece of land, and is creating this. Now, as a Northerner, I felt very relieved when I saw that some peace had been restored to Yendi, that long protracted conflict in Yendi, and one would have thought that surrounding tribes would also learn some lessons from this. Unfortunately, that is not happening. But more worrying is the fact that the police is overwhelmed with the issue. Almost 2,000 people displaced and 3 lives lost. Only God knows what will wake up tomorrow.
I agree.
And hear from that area.
Very concerned. We have had this problem brewing for some months now, you rightly said, and the installation investiture of the Yana, I thought that would have reined the various parties in, so they appreciate that unity is now coming to the northern region and northeast regions. But we still have this problem on our hand, and the interministerial committee or task force set up to investigate the Chiripwani issue have made recommendations. We don't know how far into the implementation these recommendations have gone, and we have another crisis on our hand. I know that the Yana has reached out to the various paramountcies, so to give them ultimatum to end this within 10 days, but he needs assistance from the state. We need to I always say that when conflicts happen, one of the key lapses we have as a country is the strength of our intelligence gathering. The police, you said, are overwhelmed, but if intelligence is strong, a few police officers can put in place a good strategy to nip these conflicts before they even start.
Escalate.
So we need to beef up intelligence gathering, the Bureau of National Investigations everywhere, but I do hope that they will be more empowered to collect effective intelligence that will help us curb these things before they get out of hand. So we're not doing good at all when it comes to northern region and Chereponi and anything. As a country, we should be ashamed that we've sat by to allow these conflicts to rage on for years. That also doesn't take away the fact that the people involved must be responsible in conflict resolution. You need to get to a point where you need to take responsibility and make up your mind that no matter what it takes, you're not going to send your community into war. So we need to get them talking to each other, and we need government to lead that process.
You need government to lead that process. And if you look at the volatile nature of this environment, then you can understand why the fact-finding committee's report is very relevant here. We're told that the report has been submitted to government, but the implementation, we don't know when it will start. Yeah. Would people be right if they say government is not giving much attention to this issue, the reason we find ourselves here? Kofi?
I think that the setup of even the committee is indicating for the fact that government is committed to resolving the issue. I mean, which government will be happy to see a part of the country in conflict? Yeah. So the issue, the problem is the committee and the work they did and the recommendations. We have not seen the effects, the positive effects of the recommendations. So that is why we are worried, and it's rightly so. Why? Conflict is bigger than what anybody looks at. We are looking at a situation where people are fighting over 2 acres of land. Yeah. And it's not about the size of the land. Yeah. It's about the ancestral significance of the land. Yeah. So you have all kinds of interest in there. So it's not just about, it's just the land, and so we should just cross over it, get a committee, and so it's bigger than even the scope of the committee. The committee has done its work. In fact, the time that the committee was set up, the paramount chiefs, they even agreed that they signed a peace pact, and they indicated that they were going to ensure that there was peace. But that has not happened. Why? Because conflict resolution actually goes beyond what we are saying. See, the demographics are clear. If you go to Cheponi, the Congombes are the majority and the Jokosis are the minority. I think that there's a class war over, it's like supremacy. So you came to meet me here, why do you want to take my land? And probably Jokosis believe that the land belongs to us and all that. So those are the issues, but they go beyond even the size of the land, because they think that it's the ancestral significance. Okay, so then how do we look at it? We have a situation where politicians, possibly influential people possibly have gone in there. Because if you look at the guns, single barrel guns, the question has been the 4 people who were arrested, they had single barrel guns. Where did you get it? In fact, largely we know that it's not East Legon we are talking about. This is an area where poverty is endemic. And so, I mean, you think that they can afford single barrel gun? There are people behind. There are people who are sponsoring them. What is their interest? Their interest probably is that, let me sponsor you, and then ultimately to be about politics. Let me sponsor you, so that when it becomes necessary, you also vote for one political party. So I provide you the gadgets. And in fact, one politician can do that intelligently. Sponsor even the both sides. They wouldn't even know. The idea is to get their votes eventually. You see, so they
kill themselves to get their votes.
They don't care. They don't care, because we're looking at where are they getting the guns from.
That's a very ultimate question.
Where are they getting the guns from? Then we have a situation where even the chiefs themselves, some of them are rich because they have access to land, community land, and we know what land is in this country. So the chiefs themselves can even sell the lands. So they have the resources to sponsor the fashions, because you see, it's about pride. This whole exercise, this whole unnecessary conflict, it's about pride. So somebody will sponsor and then get a faction to go and destroy the party of the other and all that. We can also have armed dealers who are within the factions, also sponsoring. So it is really, really sad that we are having,
and those who even produce the arms also making money out of it. So
exactly,
they wouldn't even want this conflict to stop, because they'll be out of business.
Be a way. And luckily, the Yana of Dagbon has made it clear. Mahama Abukari II has made it clear, has given 10-day ultimatum that do something about this. And in fact, the paramount chiefs have also pledged to also work, and our people respect the chiefs. We are hoping that we'll get somewhere. There's also this point of the need at this stage to get experts, conflict resolution experts, I think that we should do that.
Yeah.
We have them in this country.
I'm sure probably it's captured in the fact-finding committees. We don't know what's in that report, and that is why it's very urgent for government to implement that. Now, he made a very important point, chiefs, and you and I know how we respect our chiefs, especially in the north. We respect our chiefs so much, and that whatever they tell us, we do. Now, in all of this, what is the responsibilities of the chiefs, and would you say they have failed in allowing this back and forth clashes?
I think it has gone on for too long for us to just simply lay the blame at the doorstep of the chiefs and then just go to sleep. They have indeed failed, but the systems encourage them to fail. So if chiefs who are supposed to be custodians of the land are unable to mediate peace among their kith and kins, then that's a problem. But when I say that they have failed, but we can't just put the entire blame on their doorstep, is that it doesn't only take chiefs for the conflict to subside. You know that when the Otumfo Eminent Chiefs Committee sat, it took them years in order to bring a resolution. So it means that at least we need to start from somewhere to start the peace processes that will ensure that these conflicts don't reoccur. It's really worrying. So the chiefs have failed, but it's gone on for too long for us to say that it's only because they failed that we are where we are. Everyone has failed, and I did mention that as a society we should feel ashamed that we've sat by and allowed conflicts in the northern region to rage on for years. Where are the experts? Are we not planning to resolve the issues? Are we not thinking through the options? What happened to all the various committees that have met and have made recommendations we need to implement? So we need to set up. We need to get the national security to have a strategy. We need to have them to put in place a plan, a workable plan. Most often you find out when there are conflicts, we just hear curfews imposed, and that's it. That's the cosmetic solution. I am saddened that in areas of this nature where we have development, gaps, which is nothing to write home about, and one is thinking that because it's now a new region, probably there could be some development, and so we are all very hopeful. This conflict has led to a lot of schools closed down, and during the week we had some students complaining that all the teachers have fled and we don't even have people to teach us. It's very pathetic that we are even allowing going beyond killing the people, displacing people, and it's also affecting people's education. Where are we going with this, and how long are we supposed to be in this? Are we ever going to be developed?
So those are clearly the effects of conflicts. So you have the academic calendar getting disrupted because the students don't feel safe. Like you rightly said, the teachers themselves are fleeing for their lives. So, I mean, who wouldn't do that? Okay, so those are general effects of conflict that we should be mindful of. If I'm schooling there, I will not be happy. If my son or daughter is there, if my brother is there, I will immediately go and
does it mean that the people involved in this, the parents and the leaders in the community, don't even think about the well-being of their children?
They do, but you see, conflict is conflict, and it's the root cause of what is causing it that we tackle. Okay, so that, and I think that the students are within their rights, actually well within their rights to demonstrate, because I mean to march and say close down the school because the teachers themselves have fled. Let's go and rest. But that is the point. But you see, the general point is that conflicts result in some of these things. You have investors who will not even want to go there. People from the southern part of the country, if you post them there, they'll tell you easily that why it's this place, if I go there, these are some of these. So there are negative effects, but the conversation, in my view, should be how do we fix it. Okay, and so one of the things that I think we should do is to investigate, because people are behind. People are sponsoring.
And I'll refer you back to the fact-finding committee. See, I think the answer lies there.
We keep saying the fact. Where is the fact-finding committee?
The report has been submitted to government, so government must implement it.
Do you have the report? Have you seen the report?
I haven't seen it.
If you Google it, will you see it?
So they must make it public for all of us. And I'm saying that government must implement it.
I agree.
I think that will resolve.
I agree.
About 80% of the problem.
We can't also keep quiet.
And probably you and I won't be sitting here talking about
I agree with you, but the point is that you see, you listen to discussions. This is political discussions, and you listen to, like I told you earlier, there are new trends. So you listen to political discussions and suggestions from panelists, from guests, from whatever, so that you incorporate in. So you have the report. We have not even seen the report. Is it public knowledge?
Whether it's public knowledge or not, I mean, that's not the most important thing to me now.
There is a report.
There is a report. The government must implement. But I think fundamentally, let's listen to the Interior Minister on this. Maybe he's also got some answers for us.
The situation in Chirponi is regrettable. Clearly, we are dealing with a situation where we need the leadership of the two groups, the Kokumba and the Anofos. We involved them in the committee. They were represented, and the committee has submitted its report. But clearly, we need, in the implementation and moving forward, for the leadership of both sides to educate the people on the ground on what transpired, because it's about land. And if it's about land, the law is clear. You go to due process. But it appears that there is suspicion. And the only way the suspicion can be handled effectively is, of course, apart from the police and soldiers being on the ground, which they are, that the leadership of both groups must step forward and make sure that people live in peace. There is a certain level of suspicion, and that level of suspicion must be nipped in the bud, and that is the way we're thinking of going forward with it.
You heard the Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, who's calling for calm in the area. But I think in addressing this issue, for me, will be to tackle the fundamental issues. And one of the fundamental issues, probably for me, is poverty in the area. There's so much poverty in that area that people could fight over a parcel of land.
And they will take money from somebody and do anything at all. The fundamental problem is poverty. And I get the sense that when the new regions were created, my thinking was that this whole issue of conflicts will be put behind. So the people will rally behind the elected government officials or appointed government officials and move the community forward and bring development and bring the much needed jobs the young people need. So we shouldn't give up yet. I mean, I'm not giving up on Chereponi or anyone, but I just hope that the development will come nonetheless, because poverty is a crucial factor. Kofi made reference to the fact that where did they get the guns? These guns are brought to them from people who
because
supply.
If people cannot even afford 3 square meals a day, how do they get money to buy such guns?
You know, so we need to, all these need to be part of the strategy. I have been suggesting that the Interior Ministry should go back onto the drawing board and outline a strategy to bring back Chereponi to life. As far as I know, if it continues like this, they'll start continuing, they'll be continuing to go backwards when what they should be doing is moving forward after the creation of the new region. I just hope that Yana's ultimatum, they will take it serious and put issues and put their issues on the table and resolve it once and for all. Ghanaians deserve to go to sleep and wake up and know that there is peace in parts of the country. It's not good for us to be here and every now and then there are conflicts at other places. It makes a mockery of us even to the international community. All these investors, all these IMF conditionalities and these things will come to nothing if we are not able to show to the rest of the world that we take peace serious and we work towards it.
Fortunately, the new region, the Northeast region, they have a seed capital of 20 million for development. So we're hoping that we'll move away from this conflict, and then we will begin to see the effect or the results of that 20 million. What would you have, or how would you have government address issues of development in this area?
You can only do that when you have, because then there's a national budget, there's a regional budget, and so government always takes care of the regions. And once a new region has been created, the region's budget will be incorporated in the national budget. And so certainly, and in fact, there's a huge commitment from government to ensure that the new regions are well established, and so that is not going to be a problem. What I think is a problem is how to fix the mess we are in now, because government will certainly make sure that the needed resources that should be sent to them will be sent to them. So that I don't have a problem. One of the issues that we have to look at, in my view, is that there are people, and I keep stressing on it, Aisha, there are people who are sponsoring them. There are root causes. We need to discuss these issues publicly. Okay, we don't have to assume that they are embedded in the report that has been submitted to government, and we are not aware of.
I think we're already doing the discussion.
Exactly. So I think that one of the issues that we have to do is to focus on those who are sponsoring them. Okay. Luckily we have people who have been arrested, so I am expecting the security agencies to get out of them those who are sponsoring them, because actually the root cause of our problem is the sponsors. If we get to the roots, we get to those who are sponsoring them, we are likely to get somewhere with it. Our government looks at the general picture. The chiefs are also doing the ANA is doing his best to make sure we get to dialogue, we get a solution. Government will certainly not sit down aloof, and so while we look at all that, we should also look at the roots, those guys who are sponsoring them. Where do they get the ammunition? What power do they have? They go to community and they destroy the community because it belongs to the other faction. So
we need to disarm them. Exactly. We need to disarm them, and we need to look at where they're getting the guns from. I think that will be the resolution to our problems. A few of your comments here. Mustafa Yakubu from Chirponi, he says, good evening to you, Aisha, and your able panelists, especially Stephen. I just want to make a correction to Stephen's submission that Konkombes form the majority in the district. That submission is far from the reality. It is rather the Chokosis that form the majority in the district. Yes, we cannot dispute the fact that Konkombes are dotted all over the country, but when it comes to Chirponi district in specific, the Chokosis are majority. May peace reign at the place. So it's actually Kofi who made that point. And thank you for the correction. And this one, you didn't add your name. It says Konkombes said they have Ghana, and Ghana is for them, and persons who is taking care of their guys for them. Okay, I don't quite get your message. Nati from Tamale says, why don't we fight poverty and rather ourselves? It is time for us to change, and I think I agree with you for making that point. Paul Geraldo from Who says, I think we are fed up with the handling of this issue. Recently we all were hoping none of this will crop up again, but alas, government should take up the place and set up something there which should be under 24-hour surveillance. Maybe one of the one district, one factory should be taken. Maybe they should give them even three factories, because when people have things and they are very busy,
did you mean one district, 3 factories?
Thank you very much. When people have a lot of things when they're very busy, they don't have much time to engage with some of
I like that comment where he says that we need to fight poverty
instead of fighting ourselves. And Michael from Sunyain says, when you you as a political party sponsor violence for people to be killed, who votes for you during election time? Let our brothers and sisters in the north start being serious and stop selling their precious lives. And Michael from Sunyani is sending that wake-up call to the people in Sherpone. And Azameti Godwin from Koforija, he says, I think there should be a national policy to celebrate the most peaceful and serene villages in the part of the country. On the other hand, those found violent should be deprived of developmental facilities. So
that's a solution.
That's extreme.
He's now talking about Bentham's theory, punishing people, giving them the burdens of life, and then giving people the benefits of life because they are doing the right thing. Okay, so those are some of your comments on the show. This one, you didn't add your name. It says, we send security men and women to stay in conflict nations for 6 months or more. Why can't we place security men in the conflict areas in the north to stay there for 6 months or more? Are we more interested in going for peacekeeping in other countries than our own towns? And those are some of your comments on Sherpone. And we also are talking about party militia dialogue. This week you saw that the NPP wrote to the NDC asking the NDC to decide when and where to have that all-important meeting we've all been waiting for. But the NDC responded to the letter. Let's listen to Peter Otokuno, who is Deputy General Secretary for the NDC.
Clearly, if you see what is in the letter, the MPP still are unable to show the kind of commitment that the people of Ghana are expecting from them in respect of this matter. We are going to have a meeting with them and discuss the roadmap as to who and who we should bring into the discussion. I think that one is rather far-fetched because it is commonplace. The stakeholders that we are talking about are stakeholders that, it's not the NDC that is going to create them. They are institutions that already exist in the system. So we thought that, for that first meeting, we should really have the stakeholders and the moderators in there so that they can effectively moderate who and who should be part of the discussions moving forward. I don't think if we start with the National Peace Council, for example, moderating a meeting between the NPP and NDC, we cannot decide to add any other stakeholder or stakeholders in future. So it appears that the NPP in their operations are exhibiting some level of bad faith, which to start with will not help our discussions. No, they have done that because they know that the NDC is requesting for a multi-stakeholder meeting. And what the NPP have written and requested for this week is not a multi-stakeholder meeting. If the NPP were committed and they really want to show to the people of this country they see the urgency in eliminating and uprooting this menace of vigilantism, they would have set the place for the meeting, they would have set a time for the meeting, and perhaps maybe one would say that, okay, this political party is serious and ready to meet the NDC. They know our position very clearly, and they know that we have requested for a multi-stakeholder meeting. What they have written is not a multi-stakeholder meeting. That is why they've left the vacuum there for us to choose venue and all that, So the NPP must show much more commitment. They are ruling this country. Their leader, who is the president of this country, is close with the authority of state to even uproot or eliminate this menace without even this meeting. But we think that this multi-stakeholder meeting would provide more room for us to vent, for us to identify the real cause of the problem so that we can, deal with it permanently. But even without this meeting, I still believe that the president and the MPP have what it takes to disband this menace.
So you heard Peter Otokuno there. He's Deputy General Secretary of the NDC and is speaking to the letter that the NPP wrote to the NDC this week. And you recall that the order was given by the President about a month ago asking the NPP to reach out to the NDC to discuss this issue and find ways of resolving. For the NDC, they want a mediator in this conversation. So we've seen unending letters of commitment. And the question remains, are they really committed, Steve?
I wish I wouldn't have to make any comment on this, because some weeks back we were here, the same place, discussing this, and we thought that the parties involved are just playing games with everyone. I mean, how difficult is it for you to meet each other and discuss relevant issues affecting the national security of our country? MPP writes, NDC writes back, MPP writes back, and they are playing ping pong, and nobody appears to be agreeing on exactly what the way forward should be. Let's just have that meeting and get it over with. Now, let's look at the substance of the MPP. I quite remember when I spoke to Yao Boabing Esamoah, the question I asked him was, why didn't the MPP set a date and time to have this meeting? And it goes like,
they said within the week.
We don't want to, we want the NDC to tell us what time works for them and all of that, because they are thinking if we set the date, they will reject it. But how do we keep going back and forth on this simple issue and we still don't have a solution? I think that the written letters don't show commitment. What will show commitment is when they get to sit down and have this discussion. The NDC wants a neutral arbiters in the institution of the National Peace Council. The MPP in principle agreed to that, but they didn't set the parameters. The NDC also didn't set the parameters. So we are where we are because the two main political parties in our country who have used and benefited from vigilante groups, party militias, don't appear to want to get to the bottom of it and sit down and disband, because if they do, I quite get the sense that if they do, then they might feel a bit security-wise exposed. It shouldn't be the case, really. I think they should just be bold and sit down and have this over with.
I think the root of all this is the mistrust they have for each other. The mistrust. And probably we need to find a way of dealing with that mistrust. But Kofi, how do you digest the concerns raised by Peter Otokuno to the letter that was written to the NDC this week?
Well, I think that it was not necessary. You know, we and like he said, we're here, we discussed this. We want a resolution. We want an end to party militia in this country. So we have, the president made it clear that my party, right to the opposition, let us have a dialogue. The party delayed. There was no commitment from the party. The NDC wrote to the president. Then the issues came, we did the political discussions and all that. Eventually, we are at the point where the NPP has written
to the NDC.
I think that is a significant development because, you see, we are dealing with government in power and the opposition. I mean, this thing can easily be resolved if, and the other time, people were saying that the president should show leadership by first disbanding the political parties, the vigilante groups in his political party, so that the others can take cue and also disband. But conversely, you can also have a situation where the opposition can lead by also disbanding, because see, there's a problem here. The parties have not agreed that they own political vigilante groups or militia groups. They have not agreed. So when they speak, their language is that we as a political party, we don't own militia groups. But individuals within the party are the ones who own. So,
but they've admitted that the party militias normally guard their ballot boxes. So yes,
so move away from ballot boxes, casting ballots, and get electronic voting.
So you see, you and I know the problems that cause for us. We haven't reached there yet. I think we'll get there.
So you see that then there's a problem. There's a problem. Then it means there's some form of hypocrisy in there, because then in one breath we admit, in another breath we don't admit. But at least the letter was clear. We agree that there's a need to disband party militia.
That we have established long ago.
We agree that there should be a third party. You raised issues that there should be a third party.
That's the NDC's submission.
Exactly. There should be the Peace Council be a mediator. We agree that there should be a third party, not necessarily even the peace council, but we agree that there's a third party. We have given you the authority, the privilege of selecting the venue, the time, within the week.
Yeah.
Today is Sunday. That has not happened.
It hasn't happened.
Okay.
So
when the statement came, the response is what showed us.
Okay.
So the impression is clear. We are not going anywhere. Because see, after the MPP statement, the letter to the NDC, and they made it clear that even before the NDC wrote to the president, the chairman for the NPP, Fedibile, had been engaging the leadership of the NDC just so we get to a resolution. But that is not, you see, after all that, eventually then what?
So what we actually need is action. Not this banter and this exchange of letters.
Exactly. And so we are supposed to have them at a platform, one place, and discuss. See, the issue is that like you said, the mistrust is too deep-rooted.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be difficult to get out of this.
But we need to start.
We should be able to draw lines. For me, the good news is that to the extent that the ruling regime, and usually it is the ruling regime that the onus lies.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
once they have all the resources at their disposal, so once the ruling regime is willing and has taken the necessary steps, I think that it is positive for our country. And I think that the campaign for disbandment of party militia should continue. I am hopeful that we will get somewhere with it.
Well, let's keep being hopeful until we see the two parties sit by a table and then keep talking. Exactly. But the president has reiterated his call for this to happen, and it shows how committed he is. Let's listen to the president on this.
I'm determined to end acts of political party vigilantism. I have said so on several occasions, and I'll repeat it again. Crime is crime. It has no political color, and the police should act against any person or group of persons engaged in unlawful acts. I've tasked the Attorney General to prepare and submit to Parliament as soon as possible specific legislation to deal with this phenomenon of vigilantism and provide appropriate sanctions against its occurrence. I'm asking for the full support of the police service in the passage of the law and in its enforcement. We owe it to the Ghanaian people and to generations yet unborn to maintain the peace and stability of our nation, which our generation enjoys.
President Akufo-Addo there reiterating the point that we must disband the party militias now, but where do we start from? We haven't even seen the two parties come together to do anything yet. But one fundamental thing that the NDC raises is the fact that there should be a mediator in this conversation. And again, I heard Otokuno says even the president single-handedly, without the two parties coming together, can't resolve the issue. Let's start with the mediator issue. Do we necessarily need a mediator in this discussion?
I don't think the mediator will be the most crucial element of the whole process to disband. A mediator will be good. A mediator will be wonderful. It will just whitewash things. But the real parties, the real deal is the two parties involved being able to sit down and knocking their heads together to find a way to deal with the problem they created. This vigilante, I didn't create a vigilante.
Yeah, they created their own monsters.
But they created these monsters. And the monsters are here to bite us. And we're here looking at somebody else to come and mediate and resolve the problem. I
think it's a result of the mistrust they both have.
I remember clearly during the before and during the elections 2016, we were warning and screaming that these vigilante boys, especially the ones who were attacking journalists here and there, MPP headquarters here and there, we were screaming and saying this could be dangerous, this could blow up in our face. Suddenly it's here. Suddenly it's a problem, and we're now speaking nice, fine English about it. No, we need the action, and the president needs to take this as a personal responsibility. He needs to take the action that needs to be taken. He has executive powers. I mean, I didn't even think that the president needed to issue what I call threat of using legislation. I mean, just go ahead and take the action and disband. But we as a nation haven't even decided what will constitute disband.
I think we have
creating jobs for these groups which are gathering in the name of political parties, or what will constitute disband?
I think we have a fair idea of disbanding first and disarming the people first, and actually integrating them into society and finding jobs for them, because
this scope of the discussion we haven't had. This scope of discussion we haven't put in the public domain, because the two parties haven't sat down to agree on anything.
On what they want to do.
Because when you have groups, unemployed youth groups, who come together to support political ideologies, and sometimes through it becomes violent, you just cannot come like you deal with Galamsey to clamp it down and that's it. No,
it's not that easy.
These people have been trained, some of them in weapon handling. I don't know for a fact, but I did know from the indications we got from foreigners coming in to train groups of MPP before the elections. These things are there in the public domain, so we don't know whether they are trained in weapon handling. So imagine they are trained in weapon handling, and some of them, I cannot confirm those who are in the national security whether they are indeed vigilante groups or not, but let's stick with what we know, that some of these boys could have training in weapons handling. You just don't come and say stop this assembly and then that's it, go home and sleep, go home and have no job. No, this will be worse than if they were in an organized group where they get to meet here and there, now and then, and they get the political parties giving them money. So we need a strategy which will work, and that strategy, the two parties involved need to sit and agree on
how they want
to go. If there is no strategy, how would a mediator be of any help at all? So what I think they should do is to get the mediator, all right, but sit first, meet together. The NPP has been saying it. Let's meet together. Let's find the way around this. Then if along the line there is need for mediator, they broaden the scope of the approaches. So I think that they need to sit down. For me, I am passionate about this because I think that we are underestimating how volatile these groups could be to our overall national security. They are a threat.
They are a threat, and Ayawaso West Wargon is just a clear example. And if we're indeed heading towards an election year 2020, I think we don't have time. It looks like we're just joking with this issue because we have a feeling that we have enough time on our hands. This is 2019, and 2020 is just around the corner. And the issue is, yes, you made the point that this is beyond just saying that we want to disband. We need to have a strategy on how we want to deal with these guys, and we have a clear sense that one of the critical things they need to do is to disarm these people. Now, when you disarm these people, what do you do with them? Do you just tell them go home and sleep? What do they do to these guys?
Asha, before you disband, you need to come to a conclusion and get them off our system. That's the first stage. Before you disband them.
They exist for the political party.
I agree with you. I'm saying
and some of them have found their way into the national security infrastructure.
Very dangerous.
Your question was,
we need to find a strategy.
Do you think that we should have external mediators? That was your question. I think so.
That was to Steve. I'm asking you,
that.
how do you think we should deal with these groups? Because we can't just sit down and say that we are disbanding. We need to have a strategy.
Yes.
How do we deal with the people after we've disarmed them?
The first phase is what the president has done, to call for the parties to sit. Now we are at a stage where the NPP has written to the NDC. That's the stage where
we are now. Yeah.
Now we are hoping that the two parties will meet and agree to the modalities. Now I think that the external, at least there's a middle point at this stage where both parties agree that we need external mediators, and I think that it is significant.
When you say external, you mean somebody from outside Ghana, or you mean a neutral mediator like the National Peace Council?
NDC suggested that we should have the Peace Council.
Yeah, to
the NPP in its statement.
It's in its letter,
and we can.
We all know about that. That
also said that they are willing to have external mediators. That is a middle point.
Okay,
that is significant in this whole campaign.
Okay,
so the two of them, at least they have one voice at a point.
Okay,
let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay,
let the two parties meet. Let them discuss as for the modalities and the strategy. NDC cannot bring its strategy for MPP to take. MPP cannot go in there and do their own strategy, come and impose it on NDC. The two parties must meet.
So you agree with Steve that the most important thing right now is for the two people to meet, even before we think of any mediator?
I mean, the mediator, they have agreed that we need a mediator. So their meeting will involve a mediator.
Okay. So
are you following?
Even their first meeting should involve a mediator.
Because the two parties have agreed that we need a mediator, and that is significant in this whole exercise.
Okay.
So MPP, NDC, we have agreed that we need a mediator.
So the two of them,
the argument of the two of them meeting to strategize to get a mediator, that one is mute, because the two of them, one party will not agree.
They've already agreed.
So they have agreed that let's move
there should be a mediator
to the next stage. So the two parties will meet. There will be a mediator, like a referee in a football match.
Okay.
So then when they meet, then strategies will now come in. There's a referee, and then we move on
from there. Luckily, the IGP has also stated that the police is already in consultative meetings with the political parties to ensure how we do this disbandment. And the IGP says that the police has zero tolerance for party militias. Let's listen to the IGP.
We want to assure all people in Ghana that police is consolidating ideas towards supporting the political process to rid the nation of the most talked about issue in recent times, vigilantism. With unwavering political will demonstrated by Your Excellency, the police is further emboldened to tackle the menace head-on. As I stated in an earlier press conference on the 14th of February this year, the police maintain a zero-tolerance policy against vigilantism.
So that's the IGP there explaining how the police wants to meet the political parties halfway to ensure we disband the party militias. But are we hopeful with the kind of back and forth we're having? Are we ever hopeful that we will disband party militias and even before 2020?
I am hopeful, but they are not showing me that they're committed. I'm hopeful in a sense that I want them to be able to meet, because I don't want us to go into election 2020 with vigilante issues hanging around our neck. We have all sorts of issues to deal with to help make the informed decision of whether we are going to vote party A into power or party B. I don't want one of those issues to be vigilante group, and the fact that I feel insecure as a journalist, for example, and as a citizen of this country. So they must go beyond the rhetoric, they must go beyond the exchange of letters and sit down and talk. I am hopeful, because if I do not hope that something positive will come out of this, then we won't get anywhere. In the first place, I must say that even the president making the statement asking them to meet is a positive one, because this is a government in power, and this has a more negative effect on him retaining his position and being possibly re-elected if he chooses to lead his party again. So let's take it from there. Let's not kid ourselves that this is not serious. It's a big deal, and I'm sure the parties themselves know that this is a big deal. So we can only urge them on, stop the delays, meeting, hurry up,
and let's see what happens. I'm hopeful too, and Kofi, I know you are also hopeful that this thing will be disbanded so that we will all be free. Now, just this Thursday, we went to Parliament, and to our disappointment, only 15 MPs out of the 275 MPs who are supposed to be there and doing government business were in the chamber, and the speaker was alarmed. Let's listen to him.
We have an appointment with the good people of Ghana, particularly the young ones who come to listen to their parliament. I will pray that we take this obligation seriously. If we take our nation seriously, we should take this obligation seriously. But by the combined effort of all of us doing our bit, that it can be progress and development in this country. This is a very important imperative. And please tell police, we need to do our duty at the plenary before anything else. Honorable members, please take note.
Professor Michael Quay, Speaker of Parliament, they're lamenting over absenteeism in Parliament. This is not the first time we've seen this, and I'm very worried that the Speaker is not cracking the whips, because if you look at the constitutional provisions, the 1992 Constitution, Article 97 to be precise, 1C, and it states how, circumstances when a member of Parliament should step down. And if I have it here, let me see. So a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament if he absents himself without permission in writing to the Speaker, or unable to offer reasonable explanation to the Privileges Committee for 15 sitting days of a meeting. And per their own rules, the standing orders of the House, if a member of Parliament is going to be staying away for that long, they ought to seek permission from their leaders and with approval from the Speaker of Parliament to be able to do that. But in this case, we are not seeing that. And I am just yet to find out that the Speaker knows about people who are out of Parliament with his own approval, will come and sit in the chamber and lament. No. And I also cannot think that the Speaker of Parliament will even, out of his own will, give about how many people out of the House, 260 people, permission to go away and leave only 15 people to come to the House to do government business. This is pathetic.
This is pathetic. I think that we need to, as usual, go beyond the rhetoric. The Speaker needs to just take action. If you come to Parliament and there are only 15 people out of the whole lot to do government business, it's even an emergency. You can't do any business. So I don't know whether they were able to do any.
So I'm told 12 were from the minority and 3 from the majority side.
That's very unfortunate. That is very unfortunate, and we need to get the whip cracked. But the key question is also that the political season is inching closer, and many of these MPs are seeking to retain their seats. They're in political positions. They need to go back to the electorate to be voted back into power. So they don't have the time to sit and do the business they voted to do. So we need to also look at how our systems function, our governance structure, where we take too many people from Parliament to do government job. So they're in Parliament, they're also ministers of state and doing legitimate business for government. If that was not the case, then we could have had good progress with majority of MPs not having to juggle government business with parliamentary business. So we need to look at reviewing our constitutional provisions
exactly
to not get majority of MPs to be
from Parliament.
That is if we attach seriousness to the work Parliament does.
Yeah.
I think Parliament's job is serious, so we need to eventually get them to act serious. That's all really. I mean, if an MP absents himself without following due process of the parliamentary rules, then he needs to be punished. It doesn't take the speaker coming to sit there
to
and warn
lament
anyone. These are adults. You don't go warning adults over what they know they should be doing.
They should be doing.
Like speeding. You are speeding. You know you're speeding. You don't need a police officer to come and tell you stop speeding. You know. So
yeah, Kofi. So how does this come across to you? 15 MPs, 2 out of 275 MPs.
So we are looking at 260. But see, the point is that the speaker is complaining. The complaints tells us something.
He's complaining to who? Me? No, I don't have the power to deal with this issue.
I agree with you, but I'm saying that
the president doesn't have the power to deal with this issue. It is the speaker who has the power to deal with the
fact that he's complaining means he has not given permission per what you read.
Definitely so.
Because if
I would be surprised
that he gave the permission.
He gave 260
the 260 to stay. He wouldn't be in Parliament to complain in the first
Definitely.
place. So once he's complaining, then there's a problem. Then it means there are MPs who have erred.
Yeah.
What is the position of the law? And you read it.
Yeah.
The Privileges Committee can come in and make sure that we deal with issues like that. In fact, Odikro has done tremendous work on some of these things. MPs who absent themselves for the needed, if you cross the 15 times, and they have given list. Why don't we have the political will to punish those who flout the law?
I think the speaker has
this is the House of Parliament. And I think that we can also, say some of the things. We can also look into the House and conjecture. What is it that is preventing? I mean, he said that if you look at Article 78 plus 1 of the Constitution, it gives the President a mandate, and it's an instruction that majority of your ministers should be from Parliament. So you have majority of the ministers being part of government, and government business is no joke. And so naturally you have a situation where they are unable to attend to the business of the house.
So it brings back
unfortunately,
that conversation.
Some of them also don't even ask permission. But the Constitution is clear. Let me just quote chapter 10 of the Constitution, under the legislature. A member of Parliament vacates his seat if, I'll start from the top, Parliament is dissolved.
Yes, I think we know that. And it is the C part that is very relevant here. Yes, when Parliament is dissolved.
That's the third point, so I'll get there. So
Parliament we're running out of time.
Parliament
that's why
is
I'm interjecting.
He is elected speaker. The 10th point, I could have just read I just wanted to have a general picture. He absents himself from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament without permission in writing to the speaker. This is the Constitution. This is not the Parliamentary Act, the orders and all that. The power that's
Article 97.
So it is clear to us what the speaker has to do. The speaker is not supposed to complain to us. The speaker is supposed to take action. I think it's about time that we make example of MPs who absent themselves, because it affects government business. If you don't have a quorum, you can't do government business. In 2016, we had to postpone the debate for the budget because we didn't have a quorum.
And the most fundamental thing is the fact that there's been arguments and there's been calls for that particular article that imposes on the president to nominate a lot of his members of Parliament, ministers from Parliament, to be amended, because this is what we get if we keep on nominating or appointing ministers from from Parliament, because sometimes some of the issues you may not even have the time to go and ask for permission from the Speaker, and so this is what we get. So probably is some discourse that we must start to get that portion amended so that we wouldn't have much of our ministers from Parliament. Then maybe we can avert some of these absenteeism from Parliament. And let me read just a few of your comments. Okay, my producer says I don't have the time to do that. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Steve Anti is from TV3 and Kofi Encho is from Adom Online. Thank you so much for joining the discussion. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.